Assemblymember Williams, do you have a question or comment? I think you can have a seat for another minute. I do want to say that we've heard three very important talks today, and coming from UC Davis, Lawrence Berkeley Lab, UC Berkeley, I'm going to be asking these folks over the next year to come up with a coherent energy plan for the state, making trade-offs between what the right technologies are, as well as right now we sort of look at it in boxes. There's transportation, there's renewable resources, there's energy efficiency. But what's the trade-off between those various things? If we could use renewable energy entirely, and then we could go to electric vehicles. But if we still have 50% of the grid, and we wouldn't have to worry about buildings if we were using renewable energy entirely, wouldn't have to worry too much. On the other hand, getting there is pretty tough. But the point is there are trade-offs, and I don't know what the right ones are. But we need to come up with a coherent plan. I think all three of you have talked about what's important for that. Knowing what our computer models are predicting that it is correct. So we do find the best choices. Taking a look, and what you're talking about, particularly Dr. Simonovich, was not using energy we don't have to use, even if it is being used very efficiently. And then finally, being able, besides using ground truth to look at these computer codes, also looking at different ways of saving the duct wrapping, for example, getting rid of the duct leaks, etc. So there's just lots to do here. Tremendous contribution from the University of California. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
So panel 3. We have Dave Ashukian, the Director of California Energy Commission's Efficiency Division. The division is responsible for designing, developing, and implementing programs, policies, and regulation that achieve California's energy efficiency goals, including greater energy efficiency in existing buildings. We have Pete Scala. He's the Program Manager for the California Public Utility Commission's Demand-Side Analysis Branch. Mr. Scala oversees the Commission's analysis of the existing potential and corresponding cost-effectiveness of the various demand-side energy resources being pursued by the state's large investor-owned utilities. Peter Miller is a senior scientist at the Natural Resources Defense Council. Has more than 25 years of experience working to develop and implement science-based energy and technology programs. Dr. Miller is a professional experienced. Dr. Miller's professional experience includes energy efficiency policy and programs, renewables, and RD&D, with particular experience in measurement and evaluation of carbon offsets. This panel will discuss the future of energy efficiency in California. How can we make sound policy decisions regarding energy efficiency that are effective, comprehensive, and cutting edge? I'm eager to discover what, if anything, we are leaving on the table and why. I see these issues as opportunities to learn and explore different and better ways of achieving California's goal of doubling the efficiency of existing buildings. With that, I will give the floor to our next speaker, Dave Ashukian, and please pronounce your name and make sure I got it right.
Yes, you are very close. That's how I pronounce it, Ashukian.
Ashukian. A little different.
Okay.
Ashukian it is.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. As you mentioned, I'm the Director of the Efficiency Division, and we are responsible for promulgating the Title 24 building standards, the Title 20 appliance standards. We are also implementing the Prop 39 K through 12 program for schools in California. And I'm focusing on our future plans for achieving the doubling of efficiency in existing buildings. One of our primary roadmaps for achieving that goal is our AB 758 action plan, the Existing Buildings Energy Efficiency Action Plan. And I'm going to just talk briefly here about some of the actions and measures that are identified in that action plan. I don't want to diminish the rest of the activities that the Energy Commission and other agencies are conducting, much of which you've heard about today already from the previous panels. We certainly are looking at how to improve those tools, how our standards can be improved. As indicated, we're constantly looking at improving ways to improve existing building retrofits and all. But again, right now I'm going to focus specifically on the actions in the action plan, or the activities that we're proposing in the action plan. The doubling of efficiency really is our current activities, as I think you've heard, is really not achieving the goals, and a lot of the market is really not poised to untap and expand the existing opportunities that are available to achieve efficiency. The vision of the action plan is a robust, sustainable efficiency marketplace that delivers multiple benefits to building owners, occupants, through improvement, investment, and operation of existing buildings, businesses, and public buildings. Bottom line is we want to create a market pull for efficiency that we currently have not achieved. I would equate it to, similar to what we have done. We're getting there in the transportation sector, I believe, with electric vehicles and hybrids. People are now, considering purchasing those types of vehicles not because of the savings or cost, but because they think it's a good thing to do. Same thing in the solar industry. We have created a market pool where there's so many different players and marketing efforts to achieve and to put solar PV panels on homes that the market has really flourished beyond, I think, most expectations from 10 years ago. We haven't achieved that same type of transformation in the efficiency sector, and that's where I think the measures in the action plan are trying to do for the efficiency side as well. As I mentioned, market-focused, market-centered. We want the market to demand these types of measures. We want the user to have a better experience when it comes to retrofitting their buildings to purchasing and applying efficiency products. As you've heard before, buying a light bulb is now a very complicated endeavor. 20 years ago, you had a light bulb. It was, what was the wattage? You replace it, and you're done. Today, it's what's the color, what's the temperature, how long it's going to last, how do I dispose of it, all these different measures. So we want these transactions to be as simple as possible for the user. Performance-driven. We want to make sure that the performance achieves the goal and the expectation that the customer has expected out of these programs and products. Again, scalable. We have projects and programs that have shown some benefits, but they haven't expanded to the point where it's ubiquitous across the state, across the country. And again, you've heard it before, coordinated policies. Some of our policies, basically encourage one thing, but then they actually step on and inhibit other policies. So we need to make sure that policies are coordinated. Even when it comes to pricing electricity, that has an effect on programs as people consider how much they're going to save. And again, partnering and leveraging programs. There's a number of programs that are similar and duplicated, and we want to make sure that we maximize and coordinate so that we are leveraging to the maximum extent possible what these programs can achieve. There are 5 primary goals in the action plan. And I'll just go through these briefly. Increase government leadership in energy efficiency. This is where we believe that we need to show by example the importance of efficiency. State buildings, Prop 39 is a perfect example of that, where we're demonstrating that we can actually achieve cost-effective efficiency in our public buildings. We have loan programs for state government where we're actually taking money retrofitting government buildings. The money is coming back as it's being repaid. The savings from those programs are actually used to produce and implement additional programs. Data-driven. Right now, again, one of the biggest challenges, people don't even understand a lot of the issues and have knowledge of what is out there. People don't know what the typical consumption is of a building's energy consumption. We need to have that data available to the consumer so they can make decisions based on that available data. High performance, the increase in building industry innovation and performance, goal number 3. Basically, that is getting the industry that implements efficiency to have better interactions with the public, with their constituents, with their market, ensuring an informed and educated workforce, streamlined assessment tools, basically making the industry as effective at implementing their programs as we've seen in other industries. Goal 4 is recognizing the value of energy efficiency in upgrades. Today, when you purchase, if you're looking for a home, you'll see things like, whether it has granite countertops, how many bedrooms it has, if it has a pool, if it's landscaped, but you have no information about how much energy that building uses, if it's been retrofit, things of that nature. We would like to see this effort is to integrate the value of efficiency in the marketing and information when you are considering either purchasing or leasing or renting a building. And finally, accessible and affordable energy efficiency solutions. This is increasing the confidence in the financial industry for efficiency. Part of that is making sure that, again, what you intend to incorporate is actually achieved so that it can be depended upon by a financier. Making sure that, again, as I compare it to the financing, to the solar industry, we've created a number of solar financing mechanisms where when you consider a solar system on your home, there's different ways to finance that solar system, either through a PPA or for outright purchase. And those kinds of alternatives need to be available when you're considering efficiency purchases as well. One of the major tenements of the action plan is our benchmarking program. And again, Doss Williams, thank you for AB 3802. It builds upon what was our initial efforts to achieve some disclosure in AB 1103. We are implementing this program. We're right in the middle of the rulemaking. Our plan is to have rules promulgated by the end of this year so that we can have actual data being collected in 2017 and 2018, and then public disclosure soon after that. Our plan is to perfect the mechanism of collecting the data and how that's displayed, and giving building owners an opportunity to actually make some changes to their buildings prior to that information being disclosed publicly. This, again, is the major market transformation tool that we see to help compare, buildings and get the market, get the public to see, hey, I want to know how much energy I'm going to be consuming in that building if I'm going to be purchasing it or if I'm going to be leasing it, and have that information to compare with other buildings to get the building owner to consider making changes to their building to compete with what their marketplace is offering. This is just the disclosure requirements in AB 802. I'm sorry, and it's focusing primarily on the large commercial buildings, but we do see that this is an opportunity to, again, get consumers and building owners comfortable with the process. We see that we believe that once we have a fully functioning disclosure program, that the market will start demanding this program and this kind of information for other types of buildings, including single-family residences. Today, there is over 20,000 buildings in California that would be required to disclose their information. We already have over 48,000 buildings in California that have registered with the DOE's portfolio manager. So it's possible that many of those buildings are already ready to go as soon as the program gets up and running. This is just an example mock-up of a potential website that would have information. The idea being that you could go to a website, you'd have essentially a map with bubbles that you would basically zero in on and have information about specific buildings. So you could instantly see, okay, here's a building that I'm considering. Oh, look, there's maybe 5 other buildings in the neighborhood that may be better than the one I'm looking at, or maybe I'm actually already looking at the best building. This gives an opportunity for both the potential purchaser or leaser to see what's out there, and also an opportunity for the building owners to compare what their buildings are doing compared to other opportunities, their competitors as well. And finally, again, recognizing the value of energy efficiency and upgrades for residential customers. We want to incorporate the value of efficiency in a real estate transaction. The appraisal industry needs to incorporate the efficiency of buildings as they do appraisals. And again, making sure that the finance industry appreciates the value of efficiency when they're considering financing buildings. This does not, again, these are the major activities for the market transformation. I don't want to diminish the fact that we are continuing to work on I'll call the bread and butter tools of achieving these, such as improving the building standards. Our Title 24 standards have primarily focused on new construction and major retrofits. We are going to be focusing more on streamlining and improving the building standards for existing buildings, retrofits. We continue to apply and improve our appliance standards, and these are the types of activities that we think will help transform the market. And that's all.
Thank you very much. Assemblymember Williams, do you have a question? If there are things we need to do as a legislature, I will hope that you would discuss them with me, either mention them now or perhaps discuss them later on. Do you have any immediate comments on what we should do as a legislature?
I don't have any specifics at the moment. I do appreciate, we had some challenges with AB 1103. It was challenging getting information and defining what is considered public and how utilities disclose that information. I think AB 802 did a great job of addressing many of those issues. So at this point, we don't have any specific issues per se.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Assemblymember Williams. Go ahead.
I think the basic lesson was when we punt something over to them, we should sometimes make some of the harder political stakeholder driven decisions and not force the CEC or the PUC to have to make the hard calls between stakeholders, because 1102 is really important legislation, but it punted some of the hard questions, and so it was important for us to address that, because of that, maybe some of the decisions would not have been strong enough beforehand, and so I think that's the lesson of those two pieces of legislation and the decision that you made in the interim.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Scala. So again, he's the manager of the California Public Utilities Commission demand size.
So I need to update that bio.
Analysis branch.
So the updated bio is that I managed the energy efficiency branch. We did a reorg a few years ago.
Oh, okay, that's even better.
Hopefully, you didn't get the old picture with that. So let me find my deck here. So before I get started, I want to say I agree with, well, first of all, I appreciate the opportunity to come and give my thoughts on.
Why don't you transform that to the slideshow?
Okay. On improvements to the energy efficiency programs and particularly the utility portfolios that we oversee. And think about new and innovative ways to get more out of them. But before I started that, actually, even before I start this presentation, I just want to say that I've heard a lot of things that the panelists who've already spoken have said that I completely agree with, even when they seem contradictory. It is really tricky. I think Ms. Beitel, the point that we need to roll these things out and not necessarily wait and let the perfect be the enemy of the good is a very good point. And yet, Dr. Wolfram's point that you can really get this stuff wrong and not show any savings after you spend a lot of money is equally valid, and that is the world I've been living in for the past 5 years, as has my team, trying to make those calls and balance those. And one of this first slide attempts to do, and it's already been spoken to a little bit, so I won't focus on the savings achievements of the portfolios. But what it shows is the goals, which are the red dots for kilowatt hours from 2006 to 2014. And the green bars are the utility reported savings, and then the blue bars are the evaluated savings, commission evaluated savings. And so first, out of the gates, there's a lot of gigawatt hours on an evaluated basis being saved here, and the same is true for gas and for demand. And those translate to both a lot of GHG reductions and bill savings, and the need to build far fewer power plants and other infrastructure. And we can certainly argue over the error bands around each of these bars, but I think the bottom line is there are real savings happening as a result of utility portfolios.
Right, and I would agree with that. But exactly how did you do the evaluation? Because I've seen very little in the way of evaluation using actual used energy. Did you check the meters? Did you look at, how did you determine that?
So depending on it's a $1 billion portfolio, and many different evaluation techniques are used using existing protocols. Certainly billing analyses, in some cases meters that we put into process flows or HVAC systems. We do use engineering models. We try to triangulate. We survey people to deal with this net to gross question, would you have done it anyway? So it's a variety of different techniques that we use using current protocols, which all have error bands, and yet we wind up pointing to a point value.
Okay, so almost all the studies I've seen depend heavily on engineering estimates rather than actual data. The only one I've seen that used actual data was the 2010-12 whole house study. If you have those other studies, I'll give you my email.
We do. Certainly, there are many other studies that don't strictly rely on engineering values.
Okay. Well, but I've seen other studies that use data, and then they say, well, if the energy use went up in this building rather than down, we'll just use the engineering estimate. I've seen that in studies, and it is absolutely the wrong thing to do. And these are CPUC studies, so just so you know.
So I would be interested in taking a look at those studies. Usually there are layers to these stories and reasons why. But so I welcome an opportunity to take a look at what we did there and get back to you. Because that's our intention is to follow existing protocols, do the best job we can do at figuring out what actually happens, short of having a randomized control trial, which is obviously the ideal, but we often don't have the ability to pull that off in real time.
So I'm not asking for a randomized control study. I'm just asking to look, when you've fixed a building, to look at energy use before and after. That's all. And you may be able to go back into the old records and look at that. And not when you don't like the data, which I have seen in studies done by consultants, not by the CPUC, but nevertheless showing up in CPUC reports. The energy use went up in this building. That must be wrong, so I'll just use the engineering estimate. I have seen that. I don't like it. Anyway, well, we'll discuss it more later.
Yeah. I don't like to hear that, for instance, all our custom projects, it's billing analyses, evaluated data. So anyway, let's explore that question, and if we, well, the other point I want to make here is we if I haven't already, is we don't get all this right on the ex post basis or on the ex ante basis. But if you look at the trends here, the 06-09 evaluations have a pretty marked difference between the green bars and the blue bars. The utility reported and evaluated, and the creation of this ex post or ex ante review process by the commission was to try to deal with this disparity in the utilities' frustration that we moved the commission moved the goalposts on them by doing an after the fact evaluation. And as you can see in the 2010 to 12 data, those deltas attenuated quite a bit.
And I will say the studies that I don't like were the earlier studies, and the one I did like was 10-12. So maybe we've got this fixed.
We're getting better.
Yeah.
And there's room for more improvement. And we actually are working with E2E to start doing some randomized control trials where we can, where it makes sense in the portfolio. Okay. Moving.